Hello, everybody. Welcome to The Week Ahead, a podcast by SVM Intelligence. I'm your host, Bisolans, and every Saturday we look at some stories shaping our continent. First up, we will explore the Nigerian National Petroleum Company's ambitious move to secure a $2 billion loan in Europe. With soaring petrol prices and liquidity issues at Dangote Industries, what does this mean for Nigeria's economy? Next, we examine the controversial increase in the Ways and Means advances okayed by the House of Representatives. What are the arguments and fallout from this decision? Finally, we head to Sudan, where the army ruler Abdel Fattah al Burhan has rejected peace talks with the Rapid Support Forces following a deadly drone strike. What are the implications of Burhan's stance on the future of Sudan? Joining me for insights on these critical stories is Sheyi, Senior Analyst at SBM Intelligence. Welcome, Sheyi.
Hello, peace.
Yeah, so Sheyi, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling in this current Nigerian climate?
It's hard to quantify because there are so many conflicting emotions. There's the hope or the faith in the fact that Nigeria would make it, and there's also anger. At least that's how I feel at how everything is going. So it's hard to quantify, actually.
Okay, so I know it's hard to quantify, but just try. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how is the NNPC doing right now?
Oh, on a scale of 1 to 10 for the NNPC, I'd probably say a 3 because I don't think they're doing an excellent job with managing our resources and also making refined petroleum products available.
Okay. So, just what I said we're going to discuss about them securing or wanting to secure a $2 billion loan. What are the motivations behind seeking this?
From recent reports, we found that NNPC reportedly owes $6 billion in debt to its refiners. So because Nigeria did not have a functioning refinery, at least before the Dangote refinery came on board, the practice was to send out crude oil abroad in some cases in what they call the direct sale, direct purchase agreement, where they give crude oil to refiners and in exchange they get certain petroleum products, whether petrol, diesel, aviation fuel, kerosene, and some of those other derivatives that can be gotten from crude oil. But sometime last year, perhaps in July or in August, the NNPC announced that it would no longer have those crude swap agreements, and so it would pay for refined petrol in cash. So meaning that before NNPC was paying for refined petrol in crude oil, but then they said they were going to start paying in cash. And since then, there's been stories about the NNPC having these debts. And so in January 2024, the NNPC got a $3.3 billion loan from the Afrexim Bank for its operations. And that particular loan was backed by 90,000 barrels of crude oil per day. That's what they're using to repay that loan. And now the NNPC has allegedly racked up $6 billion in debt to its European refiners. And so the guess is that NNPC is looking to settle a part of that debt with this $2 billion loan that they're looking to secure. I think it's worthy to note that the reason that debt has gone up to $6 billion is that the NNPC signed an agreement with its European refiners that for any month where we're late on paying you for the product we have taken off you, we'll pay you $250,000 as a fine or late repayment charge. So it's easy to see how that money has quickly raked up, gone up to $6 billion because 250,000 in 4 months is already $1 million.
Okay, but I'm very curious. What's the fate of the Dangote refinery in all of this? I mean, if the NNPC is planning to repay the loan with about 35,000 barrels, how will this affect its ability to supply the Dangote refinery?
So already the talks and the tensions between the federal government, the NNPC, and the Dangote refinery has stemmed from the fact that the Dangote refinery has not gotten the crude that it expected. So in fact, when the Dangote refinery was under construction, the agreement was that Nigeria, through the NNPC, was going to own a 20% stake. And NNPC had agreed to pay $1 billion cash, which they had already done, and they were going to pay for another 1.76 billion using crude oil. That part has not been done. So the Dangote refinery was initially trying to get crude oil worth 1.76 billion or thereabouts from the NNPC, and they could not get that. And so it's after that that the NNPC has pledged a previous 90,000 to Exim, and they're pledging another 35,000. So it only makes a bad situation worse. So if they could not supply the Dangote refinery before, they definitely cannot supply it now that they've pledged away over 100,000 barrels for loan repayments.
All right. There was a particular statement that the coordinating minister of the economy made, where he said that the government was not subsidizing. So, apparently, they're still trying to keep up that facade that they are not subsidizing oil. And I know that when we tried to talk about this earlier, I asked you that what was the last price? Well, how much did you buy for the last time you bought it, per liter? You said around 700 naira or so. So are these deniers that there are no more subsidies, are they credible? Should we believe them?
So really, when you try to measure, or if you want to estimate what the actual pump price of petrol should, in the regular market, it should be 100 or 200 naira less than the price of diesel. So you just have to look at the price of diesel in the local markets, and then look at where petrol is, or at least where the NNPC pegged it to at the official rate. And we all can tell that the dynamics have changed between when President Bola Tinubu removed subsidy May last year, that's May 2023, and what the dynamics is now. When you're talking about what should be the price of petrol, the things around foreign exchange. So that the naira has lost much more value than where it was last year when NNPC pegged it. The global price of a barrel of crude oil has also been fluctuating, and it's already north of $80 per barrel. So all of this shows that the dynamics have changed. And so in a situation where the Nigerian government or the NNPC was not paying some form of subsidy, then the price of petrol should have increased. So what we have currently is that the amount that they're paying as subsidy may have reduced, because as we have it on the market now, marketers are selling it for above the official rate. So the amount that the government is paying as subsidy may have reduced, but again, it would be good if the NNPC or the NUPRC in this case could become transparent and begin to publish. So they used to have a pricing templates that they published some years back. They published this pricing template monthly so that we can see what the landing cost of petrol is. If they could be transparent to publish that, then we can say for a fact whether or not they're paying subsidies. We can't just go by the minister's comment. It has to be backed up by facts.
Yeah, you're right. So what are the key risks? I mean, what's going to be the long-term impact of this NNPC strategy, to take a loan to manage its oil resources and all just different decisions that they've made in recent times? How will this affect Nigeria's standing in the global oil market? even to investors seeking to come in. That's
So,
it, even trying to come in.
well, investors have been evading or avoiding Nigeria's oil sector. The President Bola Tinubu administration is trying to woo some to come into the gas aspect of the sector, but we've not seen much progress on that. For NNPC standing with this loan, I wonder if the Debt Management Office would begin to classify NNPC's loans as sovereign debt, especially since NNPC's loans or NNPC acts on behalf of the federal government. So perhaps when the DMO is publishing the next debt figures, they would publish NNPC's debt as part of NNPC's loans as part of those debt figures. It's also that the more so we should get it clear that if you calculate the period when they are pledging, for example, their Frexim loan, the period through which they want to pay $90,000 per barrel, when you calculate the value of that crude oil that they've pledged, it's more than the 3.3 billion that they got. And usually in these loan agreements, the lender tries to protect their own money by taking a bit more than the amount that was given out to the borrower. And so it means that crude oil that NNPC should sell and generate revenue for Nigeria is already stashed somewhere to repay a loan. And that's going to replicate itself with this $2 billion loan. So that's the value of that 30,000 over that period would be more than the 2 billion. So these are some of the things and it muddles up the waters because no one is clear of already now. We don't know how many forward sale contracts, they're called forward sale agreements, where that NNPC has entered during the Bola Tinubu administration. At least we know these particular ones now because they're talking about it. But we don't know about the previous forward sale agreements that they have entered, whether they've fulfilled all the obligations to those agreements, or if NNPC is still repaying people that they collected money for upfront. So forward sale agreements means that you collected money upfront and said, I will give you the crude oil later. So we don't know how many of those are lying around within the NNPC structure. So it just doesn't bode well for NNPC's transparency score.
All right. Moving on to our next story, which is about the House of Representatives and a recent decision to raise the Ways and Means advances from 5% to 10%. So when I read this story, I think the part that first that caught my attention, I kind of was wondering why, if it was normal, if this was possible. Aside from going to the State House of Assembly once and seeing them say all the years have its names, this and that. I just reading the story, I just felt, okay, what is going on here? Is this proper? Apparently, it wasn't the majority of the House that approved the 10% increase or that wanted the 10% increase, but that was what was approved. So, Shay, is that normal? Like, is that a normal procedure? Is that a normal thing that even if majority of the lawmakers don't approve a decision, it's still going to stand? Is that how it works?
So I don't think that it was not the majority. We know that from the political situation, we know that the APC has the majority of the lawmakers. So, but yes, we know that some lawmakers staged a walkout to express their displeasure. Some other lawmakers had previously argued that the provision for Ways and Means should be cut down to 2% rather than the present 5%. But at the end of the day, it was increased to 10%. And the bill is currently awaiting presidential assent. Now, it's to answer your question directly, no, it's not a best practice that such a thing would happen, although it has happened in Nigeria and we have seen situations where state houses of assemblies have tried to move an impeachment bill or go on with an impeachment process, even with a minority number in the House, but it is definitely not best practice.
All right. So what was the reason behind this particular raise? Why did the House of Representatives decide to raise the limit from 5 to 10%?
It's just to say that the Tinubu administration is trying to work on the side of the law, um, because during the Buhari administration, the CBN under Godwin Emefiele violated the law by exceeding the 5% threshold for loans to the government. So when we say ways and means, it's just the money that CBN loans to the government. And what the law currently says is that the CBN can only lend to the government 5% of the revenue the government generated in the previous year. And so now that they're increasing it, it means that we should expect that the Bola Tinubu administration will or intends to take loans from the government, from the CBN, maybe even higher than what we saw under the Buhari administration. So to give them some credit too, they've paid off some of the loans and means that they have already undertaken from the CB. So it means that making this they increase it. Peace, are you there?
Yeah, I stopped hearing you for a while. I don't know if you've rounded off your response or not. Can you hear me?
Yeah. So that's making this progress.
Okay, I think we lost Sheyi. I'll just wait for our network to recover and then we can go on. All right, I think Sheyi is back. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so can you just wrap up what you were saying earlier? Because we missed a huge chunk of that.
Okay, so I was saying that if they are making provision for 10%, then they probably intend to use it. And it's just to show that we should expect that Nigeria's budget debt figures will go higher. But to give the Bola Tinubu administration some credit, they've already repaid some of the loans that they have taken from the CBN.
All right. What can you say to the decision to increase the ways and means, despite the CBN governor saying he's not going to borrow the government again till they pay previous debts?
No, certainly cannot say, or the CBN cannot unilaterally say they would not lend money to the government. They're the government's banker. So, and of course, the CBN governor was appointed by the president. So, I don't think he would want to go against this principle. However, like I was saying earlier, the Bola Tinubu administration the CBN during this administration, but we know that the previous ways and means that was borrowed, taken under the Buhari administration, has been securitized, and so this DMO has classified it as a debt, as an official debt that has a moratorium period and a repayment period. So I think that now the Bola Tinubu administration would say it is starting its ways and means journey on a fresh slate, somewhat.
Okay, but is this reliable in long term? I'm just considering what's going to be like the long term impact of this. Isn't it going to just continue the reliance on ways and means financing instead of improving production and trying to generate wealth through other means? What do you think?
So ways and means is not unconstitutional. There are instances and extreme situations that calls calls for a need, or that justifies the need for a ways and means. In fact, that's why that provision exists in the first instance. And so, for example, during COVID, we saw that a lot of central banks across the world finance their government. However, the difference is that in Nigeria's case, the economic activities, the ones that lead up to that generate revenue or tax revenue for the government, that translates to a growth in GDP, have all slowed down. And so when you are printing money, or yes, printing money that is not backed by economic activities, it tends to lead to inflation, because when the economic activity or the level of production within the economy stays the same, yet more money is being pumped into the economy through the ways and means, then you have too much money chasing the same quantity of goods. And of course, the prices of goods will rise to match the money in circulation. And that's what we currently have, for example, right now, because of the ways and means that the Buhari administration undertook. We all can see where Nigeria's inflation numbers are at.
All right. Thank you, Shay. So let's go to our next story, which is our last story, which is on Sudan. Sudan's conflict has gone over a year now, started around April 2023, and apparently it is still on. So I want to ask, can you give us like just a brief historical context to what is going on, the power struggle between the Sudanese military and then the Rapid Support Forces? What exactly brought them to this particular point?
So the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, were actually created in 2013, and they were actually, at the beginning, they were initially created to combat the rebel groups in the Blue Nile State in Darfur. So, but by 2019, they had now become a political stakeholder, if I could put it like that. So during the 2019 political crisis in Sudan, they played a role in the military junta that finally took over Sudan. And they actually cracked down on pro-democracy demonstrators. So that's the journey of that's the history, the origin. So initially they were created to combat rebel groups, but they then transformed into a political stakeholder, if I could put it like that. And the Sudanese military, they've been in a power struggle with them, and they right now the RSF controls significant economic resources, so they're now a force to be reckoned with within the Sudanese context.
All right, so what do you say to people? People have said, that this conflict is just a power struggle between General Al Burhan, and Emeti, Dagalo, that's the leader of the RSF. How true is this, that this is just between two men and not necessarily the states army, countries army trying to protect or anything?
Well, it's you would say people can say it's a power struggle between two men, but then you have to understand the context. These two men are not two civilians on the streets. They are not two traders on the streets. They are two men that occupy powerful positions. And it is a power struggle between two men, with one or either of them wanting to emerge victorious or subdue the other and take control. So it may be a power struggle between two men, but it's a power struggle on who gets to control the affairs of the country.
All right. So how has international interest, international economic interest affected or exacerbated this particular war? Are there other countries trying to benefit from anything in this country? What exactly makes this country so important or useful to these other countries?
So there's been significant interests from various international actors, countries like the Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and even the United Arab Emirates have supported different factions within Sudan. So, for example, the UAE has been identified as a key external actor, especially because it benefits from um, the gold, and you know that Dubai, especially within the UAE, is a major hub for gold trade. So it imports a significant amount of gold from some conflict regions or some conflict zones, including Sudan. And so this trade, and you know that I said earlier that the RSF already controls some strategic mining and economic um, how do I put it now, assets or resources. So this trade now has given the RSF the means to sustain their operation. So they're basically making money through gold trade. And there's also been accusations that the UAE has been supplying weapons and ammunition to the RSF, although they've denied it officially, but there's been those accusations being thrown around. So, and gold is a significant part of the relationship between the RSF and the UAE.
All right. How deadly, how bad can this conflict get? Currently, there's a humanitarian crisis in Sudan. Uh, I don't know. What do you think is going to happen in the nearest future? Is there ever going to be a ceasefire agreement that stays? Because even for our story today, the general rejected, the Sudan army leader uh rejected talks, with the RSF after accusing them of a drone strike. And so despite the fact that different stakeholders, especially the US, has invited them for peace talks, this has not really progressed. Do you think, is there any end in sight, at least in the nearest future?
We certainly hope so, especially for the sake of regional stability, because this crisis and the gold trade between these parties has contributed to, it has regional implications. So it's contributing to the instability within that region. The Red Sea, which is also within that region, which is a major trading or should I say transportation channel for the shipping industry, has also been affected. So, and all of this has implications not just for that part of Africa, but for the wider region. So we certainly hope that these will come to an end. And there's also, for even the people of Sudan and the people within that region, neighboring countries, because of the continuous flow of weapons and the struggle, like you were saying earlier, between the struggle between both parties, it's caused, it's has led to a big humanitarian crisis. A lot of people have been displaced, diseases abound, food insecurity and violation of human rights, to mention a few. So we certainly hope that there is an end to sight, although there's an end to it, although will that end come very soon? It's difficult to say. But we certainly hope that all this comes to an end.
All right. Thank you so much, Shay, for participating into this episode. We tried to record earlier, but network was choppy. So I'm glad that at least you had a fair good recording right now. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And to
It was
all
a pleasure.
yeah, thank you. And to all our listeners, this podcast is by SBM Intelligence. And for deeper insights into our work, please visit our website at sbmintel.com. And remember to connect with us on social media. You can find us on X, Facebook, and LinkedIn at SBM Intelligence. That's all for today. See you next week. Bye.